Hey, good evening, and thank you so much for joining Crime Crunchies this evening. I am your host, Courtney C. I am a 27-year veteran of the media, and I am happy to be able to bring you Crime Crunchies. So, we are on part 7, and I'm continuing the series because I haven't been convinced otherwise that the theory that I feel very strongly about is actually what has happened. And as time has gone on, I feel more strongly than ever that the family has known who took Nancy. And I don't think that they know the name of the person who took Nancy, but I think that they know the situation. I think they know the why and the unnamed who. And all that good stuff. Actually, I have a weird name on my thingy here. Hold on. That's weird. Hold on. I have a weird name on my thing. Huh. Oh, well, I guess you're just going to call me Road Ranger tonight. I'm not Road Ranger. I'm Courtney C. I guess I can pretend to be Road Ranger. That's just weird. I don't know where that came from. Edit name. All right. While I'm fiddling around with my settings, I'm going to talk about the brother-in-law tonight. I'm going to break my rule. I'm going to go over my theory, but I am going to talk about the brother-in-law tonight because I read all of the comments that you guys leave. I love reading all your comments because technically at this point, until the feds do their elaborate perp walk and we get a mugshot, we don't know truly who has done this or why it's been done. Everything is speculation, theory, conjecture, etc. I have personally respected the PCSD in ruling out the family because I can only imagine if this was my situation, my beautiful mother who had been taken, and then having a family member blamed, which is, again, that's the playbook, okay? I can only imagine how much worse it would be to think that a family member was being blamed erroneously. I mean, we think about JonBenet Ramsey. The father was a suspect for years. The brother's technically in the media still a suspect, okay? But because they have officially been ruled out by the sheriff, not the feds, but by the sheriff, I feel like they need to be left on the table. And I don't want to stir up rumors. I don't want to kick them while they're down. But there is a comment that somebody made in my in one of my past videos, and it's actually made me rethink the fact that I think we do need to talk about it. I think it's fair to talk about it. Okay. I'm going to start tonight out though and talk about the theory that I feel strongest about, and I'm going to give you why I have and how I've come to my theory, and how actually in the past few weeks I feel even more strongly about it just for things that have been happening, updates that we've got. There's not a whole lot of updates in the news, but some things that have come out in the last week that I think help bolster my theory. So I'm going to start off tonight with that, just in case you haven't visited my channel. Again, I'm Courtney C., a 27-year veteran of the media, and I am going to share my screen. We're going to get going. While I'm doing this, please remember to subscribe. I am like 600 beloved crunchies away from 10,000 subs. I'm hoping I'm a different type of channel. I don't want super chats. If I could take super chats, super stickers, if I could take memberships off, I've removed my store. If I could, I don't want anybody's money. I just want people to watch me. Okay. The groceries are expensive. Everyone's having a tough time. I don't want I see some other YouTubers, it irritates me when they're shilling for tips and super chats. I'm not that person. Okay. I don't want anything. I just want subscribing is free and just watch. Okay. So, all right. So, and thank you. Hi, Joe. It's good to see you tonight. And bear with me because I'm going to go over my theory again. If you've seen it or you've watched my other videos, you know what it is. But I always want to start here because we're going to branch out tonight a little bit. But this is where I think we are. And again, just looking at the timeline, we've got Nancy's last seen alive at around 9:50 p.m. when she's dropped off at home by a family member. Okay, we're going to come back to that tonight. I'm going to actually address that tonight. Porch guy seen at 10 a.m. Annie is notified the next morning that she didn't show up for church. Annie and Tommaso show up at the house, and there's an entire timeline of when they show up, when they call the sheriff. There's some people who feel that there was some time in between, that they were there walking around the house. I have an actual viewer who commented that her uncle is a Pima County sheriff law enforcement officer in Tucson and was one of the first responders and was there on the scene. And he claims that in those first hours on the scene, that Annie was trying to tell law enforcement that her mother could not have walked off and that she believed she was taken. Now, I am aware that Sergeant Aaron Cross had come out and in a podcast and mentioned that it was the family who told law enforcement that she was a walk-off. But I think he walked that back because everything we've heard is law enforcement treated it as a walk-off, and the family was trying to convince them that it wasn't. And part of the reason why we know that the family was trying to convince law enforcement that she wasn't a walk-off is from the Savannah and Hoda interview on NBC. Okay. And again, all the information we have, of course, it's speculation. I'm open to all possibilities. We only know what we've been told. We're piecing it together. So if I'm wrong, don't be angry. We're just going with what we've got. Okay. But the interview that Savannah did with Hoda, she specifically states that that she goes through how they were trying to explain that her mother had severe back pain. She couldn't walk to the mailbox. And it sounds to me like in the interchange between Savannah and Hoda, that she was kind of imploring for law enforcement, you need to listen to me, you need to do something. The law enforcement was stuck on this walk-off thing for so many hours, they really lost that initial important time when maybe the thread was a little bit fresher. I mean, they lost precious hours by doing this. So even though there are reports that Sergeant Cross reported that the family was the one telling law enforcement that that Nancy was a walk-off, to the contrary, I believe by listening to Savannah's own words in her interview with Hoda, that they were trying to implore with law enforcement that Nancy had been taken. So when I hear that, I'm thinking to myself, it's a weird situation already to begin with, because who has a sibling who is, a global TV star? Okay, with Savannah Guthrie. They probably live in a completely different world. There are probably things that they're exposed to that regular people are not. But yet, I am not going to immediately go to my mother was kidnapped. If my mother is missing, if the door is open, I would probably think maybe someone came and picked her up and they went to the Circle K or they went to the grocery store and she just forgot her stuff. Or I'm calling my siblings even in the other state and saying, hey, did you talk to mom? Why would they immediately go to kidnap? Okay. And I originally thought that, we don't know how they interact with each other in their relationship, but I thought that I could see Savannah maybe talking to Cam about if there was somebody communicating with Savannah, and I don't want to call it an obsessed fan, because I don't know if this is an obsessed fan. It could be somebody who's fixated. I think someone who's fixated and an obsessed fan, they have different connotations. To me, an obsessed fan might have a sexual or romantic overtone to it. I think fixated could be somebody who's just zeroed in, okay? It may not have a sexual overtone. And I'm not sure that there's a sexual overtone to this. And I also am not convinced that this was done for money. But I do feel like there had been someone communicating with Savannah in the background that had been wanting something from her. Okay. And again, I don't want to go to money. It could be attention. It could be validation. It could be maybe this person felt like she was somebody who could help him, into business. All right. We need to open our minds to think, if I'm going to somebody that's well connected in, the news field, in celebrity field, on TV, it could be somebody who wanted a job in production at a TV station, all right? We have to think about these things. What are all the different angles of Savannah that somebody could think that she might be a way to get in? And if I'm emailing Savannah and I'm trying to get something from Savannah and she's ignoring my emails and she's not treating me the way I feel I need to be treated, if I feel entitled, if I feel like I'm an equal, if I feel superior, I could start having a lot of resentment. All right. And if you've got somebody who has a personality disorder, who isn't getting the attention that they deserve, that's where things can go awry. And in a normal life, in a normal human interaction, relationship, situation, these things don't happen. But watch the news. People have weird thoughts. You can think you know somebody. You can be married to somebody and have no idea what they're thinking, doing, wanting to do, studying, researching. I mean, look at Rex Huerman. This family had supposedly no idea what was going on with Rex Huerman in the basement. Okay. So I really think that there was something going on in the background that Savannah had shared with her siblings and letting them know that, I've got that, it could be something as simple like, what, I've got this conversation, this email, this person's emailing me and, it's just getting kind of weird. And they're starting to ask personal questions or they're dropping hints about things that just are inappropriate or, they mentioned that Today segment where we had lunch at El Charo and Annie, I'm kind of concerned about this. I mean, it could be something like this. This could be a conversation just like that. Okay. But again, in our regular lives where things are somewhat normal, when we're dealing with someone with a personality or a disorder or someone with mental health issues, the last thing you're going to think is they're going to come and get my mom. Okay. That is just not in this universe. And I can't fault them. They may have thought that there was no additional security needed. Okay. But helping to kind of make me think that this is something that they knew about is again, the fact that, if indeed it's true that Annie had tried to convince law enforcement that the mom did not walk off the first day, PCSD did not treat it like a crime scene. They weren't doing search and rescue. They were just, I don't even know that they were really collecting evidence. There really wasn't that much. Yes, there was blood on the front porch, but I mean, it didn't look like a lot of blood. Okay. If I'm thinking this poor, beautiful woman got hit in the face, blood, nosebleeds, they just gush. Okay. That could maybe be, especially if she was on blood thinners, that could be, a cut from a plant or something like that. I'm just thinking that they might have thought it wasn't that big of a deal. Okay. Yeah, the camera's gone, but who knows? Okay. So when the siblings are finally notified, which, we don't know how long all of that happened. It felt like it was too long in my mind that she waited a couple hours to call Savannah. But again, no judgment, and I don't have all the details, okay? But by the time Cam gets to Annie's house, and then Savannah's on her way, Savannah's probably communicating and still hearing from Annie. Look, law enforcement is still treating this like a walk-off. You guys, something's not right here. Cam immediately says to Savannah, yes, this has to do with you. Again, normal situation, that's not what's going to be wrong with mom. Okay, kidnap does not just happen. All right, they have to have known something. He went right to it. Annie went right to it. Savannah went right to it. Okay, not a regular situation. The scene does not detect a major, like it didn't look like there was a fight in the house. Doesn't look like things were knocked over. Doesn't look like things were broken. It looks like a pristine home kept by a very tidy little old lady. Okay. So again, law enforcement deals with this. It's all a pattern. Everything's a pattern. Okay. No, the back doors are open. She walked off. She's 84. She's old. She's, house looks great. Nothing looks broken. No windows. She walked off. It isn't until that night when Savannah reaches out to her friend, Senator Mark Kelly, and then lands and gets into Annie's house in Tucson, that she's on the phone then with Chris Nanos. It's like the cavalry's come in. And the next morning, everything changes. It immediately, that next morning, goes to a crime scene, and then it goes into search and rescue. So the fact that the button was not pressed, things were not escalated until after Savannah got through to Senator Mark Kelly. Things did not escalate in the investigation until Savannah was on the phone in the middle of the night with Chris Nanos. And yes, he had to miss some of his beauty sleep, his sexy Corvette. Hopefully he's okay and has caught up with that. It's very important that anyway, I'm being sarcastic, okay? He makes me gag. So I'm pretty convinced, and I'm just looking at this, trying to think through. You guys can disagree, but the trigger was not pulled on search and rescue until after these few things occurred, okay? So February 2nd, it's treated like a crime scene. Her first post goes out on Instagram asking people for prayers. February 4th, in between February 2nd and February 4th is where the first ransom note is sent to TMZ and the Tucson TV station. And again, when we go back and we think about the type of person who could have been communicating with Savannah, this person could have had a fixation, which I consider a fixation non-sexual, not romantic. An obsessed fan feels more sexual to me. And I don't know, my gut is telling me this is more of a fixation, okay? When we think about who Savannah is and we think about the things that somebody could have gotten from her, how somebody could have benefited from her, while there were ransom notes asking for money, I don't think this is about money. I feel like this is more about attention, because a regular kidnapper does not send a ransom note to TMZ and a Tucson TV station, okay? A regular kidnap for ransom business keeps it very quiet, sends it to the family. It's a transaction. It's an exchange. The kidnapped victim is kept in good health, other than being traumatized and terrorized. It's horrible, but they're returned because there's an exchange of money. Okay, it's a financial transaction with a human being being traumatized in the center of it. Okay. So the whole plan probably was to get Nancy, but it was to get Savannah's attention. Kind of like somebody sitting there going, look, you wouldn't pay attention to me. Look what you made me do. Have I got your attention now, Savannah? I took your mommy. You listen, you're going to listen to me now? That would be great. Thanks, Savannah. And I don't know if the puppet master was Porch Guy or if there's somebody else. Porch Guy screwed this whole thing up because when they were trying to take Nancy out the front door, she probably resisted, and Porch Guy had a physical confrontation with her, and she was either wounded or killed right there. Okay. And that was not part of the plan. So he screwed up this plan big time because you can't return a victim and have the transaction happen. I think that was a major, major screw up in this whole plan. Okay. But I do think Nancy was taken by somebody who had been communicating with Savannah. And I don't think that Savannah thought that it would ever escalate to this extent. And this person, again, could have wanted a job, could have wanted an introduction with somebody, could have, wanted in with her crowd. I mean, think about if you're somebody who, we believe this person is educated because supposedly the ransom notes are written grammatically correct. They clearly state, the few details we know is that there's something stated that only somebody in the home would have known about, and that the grammar and the sentence cadence are somebody who can write. All right. So this indicates somebody who's educated, intelligent. And that tells me that this person probably thinks that they are an equal. And again, wanting attention, I think that they wanted attention far more than they wanted money. Savannah dresses Kenny Rogers. Is that for Halloween? That's funny. You don't send your ransom note to TMZ. Now, when Savannah starts posting video messages, this whole thing felt really surreal to me. I don't know how it felt to everybody else, but I'm watching this whole thing play out. And the ransom notes was where I went, whoa, this feels really different. And this is before Porch Guy video came out. February 10th is when the video came out. And at that point, I was completely blown away. I've never seen anything like this in my life. I think I was too young during the Patty Hearst thing, and there wasn't media and there wasn't all this info, but it's like, wow, this is far out there. And at this point, everybody's hoping that we're going to get Nancy back. It's like, hurry up. You guys need to hurry up. Pay this ransom. They're asking for proof of life, and I get it, but I was surprised that and I think the FBI was the negotiators were telling the Guthrie family what to do and what not to do at that point. And honestly, it's just as well that they didn't pay the ransom at that time because Nancy wasn't coming home. I think it was just too late for Nancy. Although later on, when there were additional notes with this Bitcoin account, I do think it made sense to have TMZ at least pay the half Bitcoin to see if somebody could try to track somebody, because Bitcoin is anonymous, but it's only anonymous as long as it's in the ether world or the interwebs. I mean, it's only anonymous while it's in the Bitcoin world. Okay. You have to take Bitcoin, run it through an exchange, and then you got to put it in a bank somewhere in order to use it and to spend it. So, Bitcoin person was only going to be anonymous for so long. And I think it would have been beneficial for TMZ to have paid at least a half Bitcoin, and the reason why I say this is it's not involving the family. The family is keeping their hands clean. The threat of the family paying the half Bitcoin is, of course, there are people who could have been scamming them, but the family is emotionally involved, and it could have been a scenario where if the family paid the half Bitcoin, then the ransomer could have come back and said, oh, okay, well, now I need you to send me another half Bitcoin. And then it would have been just like phishing. Okay. And when you are a desperate family, that's when you end up sending more money and, you know, you're emotionally invested. That's why I think it would have been better for TMZ to have at least paid the half of Bitcoin, because they weren't emotionally invested, and the ransomer had less leverage in coming back to TMZ and saying, oh, well, you know, now you need to do this, because TMZ could then just say, no, just pound sand. I'm not going to do anything. So I think it would have been more hands off for TMZ to pay it. And TMZ, they were in the middle of this, and it isn't like they didn't enjoy being in the middle of this, in my opinion, but they definitely benefited from being in the middle of this. They got, I mean, this was clout big time for them. They were making ad revenue. I mean, their video views, app views, everything just went through the roof. So they definitely benefited, and I think they should have paid the half Bitcoin and at least seen where it went. They could have done something with it. Okay. So again, we've got the messages for the ransom notes and the soft language. We received your message and we understand. We will pay. These are words everyone was trying to figure out. Are these words that that the family, are they using specific words because they're code words that the ransomer asked them to use? Okay. And we couldn't understand it, you know, and we're reading into everything, believe me, reading into everything. But if my theory is right, and she's saying, we received your message, this could be addressing somebody who had been emailing her for months that she ignored. I received your message and we understand. I understand, and we will pay. It's like, you have my attention now, almost apologetically. You know what? I'm sorry. If I didn't, you know, treat you seriously before, I'm sorry. You have my attention. We'll do whatever you want. That's kind of how I feel about those words. All right, let's see what we've got here. If these people are so smart, why would you be so dumb when it comes to ransom? I never believed these demands. And you know what? I felt like at first they were separate as well. You know, people do unfortunately take advantage of situations like this. I mean, somebody got arrested for it. But Savannah's saying that the feds are taking them seriously, and TMZ has come out and said, yes, these are the same people from the very beginning, because the Bitcoin account numbers were the same numbers. Okay. And they were watching the account online. So, you know, were they really real? I don't know. Could it have been the kidnapper? Maybe, because it adds an additional level of pain to the family. You know, not only did I take Nancy, but I'm going to toy with you in the media. I'm going to toy with you with these letters. I'm going to make you beg. And, you know, look who's in control now, Savannah. It could be a total power play and another way to hurt her if this person felt slighted. So yeah, it absolutely could have nothing to do with it. Or if it does, it could just be another knife in the back. It could be another way to twist and torture and ruthless. Whoever this person is, either way, whoever did this, they're ruthless, absolutely ruthless, and have ruined this family. So February 9th rolls around, another public appeal. They still think that she's out there. And then we get the note on February, or the video of Porchka on February 10th. And again, it's FBI. who gets the note or the video of Porch Guy. And I think everybody agrees that we were only released a portion of whatever video of Porch Guy actually exists. They conveniently showed us a still image of Porch Guy doing recon on January 11th. So we know that there's more video. And, my appeal is if the feds weren't on to anybody, and we're 4 months in now, we're four and a half months. Let's see, February, March, April, May. We're 3.5 months, day 110. Okay. If the FBI didn't have a perp, which is what we've all been told, then why wouldn't they release more video? Because we only got a few seconds of Porch Guy moving around to where we could see his stance and the way he leaned to the left and looking around. And was he doing sign language to someone? Was there a foot behind him? Was he talking to someone? Was there a car behind him? We only were given like a minute of video, but we know that there's more video. Okay. And the video that's out there may be upsetting because there could very well be video showing him taking Nancy away. But if the feds really wanted us to help find this guy, it seems to me that they would start putting more stuff out. And I do believe the feds are in charge of this. I know that there's a joint task force where there's some PCSD folks and some FBI agents working together. I don't think that they're sharing any information with Sheriff Nanos. And I think the reason why is I think he's an idiot. Okay. I really think he's an idiot. He talked too much. He gave information away in the very beginning that he shouldn't have. He had diarrhea of the mouth. He backtracked. He was saying things early in that he ended up changing. In every interview he had, it was a little different the way he answered things. And I certainly don't think the family respects him. And what we learned last week is the feds are the only ones communicating with the family. Now, looking at Cam, he didn't talk. He did put out one video, on Instagram, but I mean, he looks like a serious guy, still water runs deep. I'm sure that this whole thing has been very difficult for him, but he's a very private person. He's a quiet guy. He's not showy. Annie seemed to have been happy to let her little sister kind of be the star, and all the things that we've seen. Annie hasn't just kind of been in. They all just kind of let her lead. But I can't imagine that Cam has a whole lot of respect for Sheriff Nanos. If anything has been bungled with this investigation, it definitely was in the first few days of this investigation. And I'm sure that the people that work there are frustrated and embarrassed at how everything has happened. We feel like they don't have any leads because we've been told that there just isn't anybody. Brian Enton has said that his sources say that there isn't anybody, but I really feel like the guys in the PCSD have been told under threat of being fired that everybody needs to keep their traps shut about anything. And even in interviews, Sergeant Aaron Cross has been asked, considering he works there and he's at a desk job now, but he has contacts. He still works there and he's with the union. Do you have any updates? And he says, no, nobody's talking. And I think that includes that nobody's telling Sheriff Chris Nanos either, because he's got a blabbermouth. So I believe the motive is somebody wanted something from Savannah, and it could be something as simple as an intro to somebody. It could be as simple as a job. It could be as simple as, a letter of recommendation. It could be anything like that. It doesn't have to be, hey, I need you to give me $30,000. It doesn't have to be simple. If this is somebody who thinks that they are deserving, they are entitled, Savannah is a celebrity, what's valuable to you is not valuable to me. Okay? This person, considering how much attention, if the ransom notes are, or this person really wants attention. Okay, maybe they want to be a celebrity. Maybe they want a news job. Maybe they want to be a broadcaster. Maybe they applied for some job at NBC and didn't get it and thought that they could get with with Savannah. And my motive is this: I think this person emailed Savannah over and over and over and reached out and maybe called and maybe texted. I'm good, Savannah, why won't you call me back? Savannah, Savannah. And they could be just driving her crazy that she ignored them. Her security may know about it. Her family probably knew about it, again, because all on their own, her family went to, I think my mom was taken. You're only going to go to my mom was taken if you know that there's some weirdo who has been fixated on your celebrity sister, who has been maybe escalating, and the there has been escalating, and somebody's patience is getting ready to run out. And there are people, again, that they think about things that you would not ever believe, things I would never believe. And it's possible, and it could be that their family had no idea that this frustration and all these thoughts were going through their mind. It's hard to say. So, I mean, do I want them to release the ransom notes? Yes. If they did not have a line on a perp, and I do think that the feds have a line on a perp, I'll just scoot right over to that. I think the feds absolutely are on to whoever this is, but they're keeping their little yaps shut. The media is doing all the good work for them by saying that there are no leads and no suspects, and this has gone nowhere. This is probably going to be one of those things where all of a sudden, 6 months from now, we'll see, breaking news. They finally got the guy, and that they had been on to him this whole time. All right. They need him to be cool, calm, and collected while they put their evidence and cross their T's and dot their I's. You got to have it put together before you can take someone in. So yeah, I think that this is somebody who had been in the background and slowly escalated anger toward Savannah and just went way off the deep end, punishing her for something that she didn't do. I don't think money is the main thing here. I think that this could have been something, it could have been anything, and we won't know until the end. But the feds are only talking to the family. That tells me that the feds are leading this investigation, and that gives me hope. The DNA that everyone's waiting for is good if it is indeed Porch Guy, because whether Porch Guy is the puppet master or not, if they can identify Porch Guy, then they may be able to backtrack to the puppet master if they are not the same person. I don't think they're the same. But you know what? There was one night when I was watching the video of Porch Guy, and I thought to myself, there are some narcissists out there who they think they're the smartest guy in the room. Nanos has kind of been described like that too. They think they're the smartest guy in the room, but they're really just dorks, okay? And we don't know, people have talked about that Porch Guy might be Hispanic just because of the way the holster was in the front. Some people thought that might be I can't remember what they call it, like a cartel carry. I don't think I'm saying it right, okay? But everyone said the holster didn't fit the gun. The gun was in the front. What if Porch Guy is this guy? And he could be Caucasian. He could be light-skinned, anything, okay? He could be Hispanic, could be anything. I don't think that we know. And this is another thing about Porch Guy. If the feds needed the public's help, if they truly did not have a suspect, law enforcement will go to the public and release more information. And apparently the feds have all the fun toys, and they have computer generators that could have taken Porch Guy and maybe somehow by AI removed the mask and given us a close somewhat. I mean, we don't even really have an official picture generation of what this guy might look like. And if you think about the billboards that were put up everywhere, they're just of a picture of Nancy missing. No, she's not missing. She was taken and killed, okay? And if they wanted to find the guy, oopsie, if they wanted to find the guy, they should have put pictures of Porch Guy or a video of Porch Guy moving around on those billboards. I think that they are digital now. They probably could have, done something. So I think the feds have a perp in line because they're not coming to the public. Last episode, I talked about wanting to see the ransom notes. Who do I think Porch Guy is? I think Porch Guy is a paid stooge. I think he's just somebody, a fall guy, a patsy, Lee Harvey Oswald, somebody to do the dirty work. I think he's just, could be a cousin or someone who, hey, you want to make a couple grand or whatever? Yeah, okay. And then again, try taking her out. She resists the front door and he pops her in the head with that stupid pistol and screws the whole thing up. There are some channels that have mentioned that it's very possible. Some of these profilers have talked about Dr. Amber Jess was one of them. She said it's very possible because he screwed this whole thing up by hurting Nancy and potentially killing her, that he could have been taken out already. If these are bad guys, they're not going to think twice about offing Porch Guy for screwing this whole thing up. But going back to the ransom notes, I really would like to see the ransom notes, and they haven't received, or they haven't put out the ransom notes. The ransom notes will be very helpful because speech patterns, phrases, cadence, spelling, grammar mistakes are all fingerprints that can help identify somebody. You could have an angry ex-girlfriend who says, oh yeah, well, Jim Bob, he used to say that to me all the time. And wait a minute, what's that video? That looks like Jim Bob. I mean, it could be something as simple as that. So the fact that they haven't put any AI generated videos or images of Porch Guy, the fact that they haven't put any even portions of the ransom notes out, tells me that they don't need our help. So far, law enforcement does not need any more of the public's help. The only time law enforcement came out and asked for the public's help was on February 10th when they released that video of Porch Guy. They said, we need your help. Take a look at this guy. Does he look familiar? And then guess what? After that, nothing. So I believe that they have a line on somebody, and this whole time that we're sitting here thinking that they have done nothing and they've gotten nowhere and this is going to go cold, I think it's the exact opposite. So again, the theory is that there's somebody who was fixated on Savannah, wanted something from her, had been emailing her, escalating in the background, finally was fed up and said, you know what, I'm going to get your attention no matter what. Took Mommy Nancy. I think her dying was not part of the plan. The notes to TMZ because those notes happened pretty quick right after. She could have still been alive, and it went through their contact us page to TMZ. It went through their contact us page. And, this person could have sent the notes through TMZ's contact us page within the first, 24, 36, 48 hours when maybe Nancy was still alive asking for this. And that's when the ransom thing started. And then they just kept going with it because they got attention. So I think that the first note probably was, as real as it's going to be. And they probably thought that something was going to come of it, at least the attention part. But as she faded, the notes changed and they were just kind of weird. This is a great question. Was Cameron aware of any previous threats to either himself or other family members? So I happen to have, so I mentioned that Cam works in the airline industry. I have a family full of airline industry people. My oldest daughter is a flight attendant. My brother-in-law is a pilot, 787. My nephews are pilots, okay? And it just so happens that Cam had training with a friend. And this friend was very supportive. He actually was like partners with Cam, okay? And he felt Cam's pain. I mean, things like they would go home on the weekends and they'd come back Monday and Cam would say things like, I hated being home because you've just got time to think. Cam talked about when he had to go out and get his mother's car. That really sucked. My friend did not pry because, again, Cam is a very quiet person and he was respectful of that. But, the only thing that Cam, was very clear about was that this is 100% linked to Savannah. And I didn't learn about what Cam said about it being 100% linked to Savannah until right around the time that I was in Phoenix for work and went to Tucson, rented a car and drove down to Tucson to see Nancy's house. And then a few days before that is when I learned that Cam had said that this is 100% linked to Savannah, and my wheels are turning in my brain. And I go to Nancy's house and I see how far back into the foliage the houses are, and how I thought her house was on a corner, but it kind of is, but it kind of isn't, because the roads are narrow, but with the trees, you can't see anything. So it's not like in a regular subdivision neighborhood where you can see clearly corner lots around the corner where the next street is. You can see between people's homes. You can see between houses to see the street across. So it's nothing like that. It's literally just desert landscaping with almost 1.5 lane roads, wide enough for just 2 cars, no sidewalks, very natural desert. You cannot see the houses behind. You can't see the houses between. You have to really even look. I mean, it looked like, looking at it from TV, it looked like the Circle Drive was so far set back from the road. But when I'm standing on the street, the Circle Drive is maybe 25 feet from the street. It's not that far away. And I mean, I had to literally be standing at the entrance of the driveway in order to see really the house. If I'm just standing with the flora and the fauna, I'm really not going to see the house. Do I think that the stalker is still unnamed by the FBI? It's very possible. I mean, I would say it's 50-50. I think it's at least 50-50 that they have a lead on this guy. And I'm not saying that somebody is infatuated with Savannah. That has a sexual overtone. I'm not feeling this is a sexual overtone. I feel like this is more of a fixation. And if fixation is more asexual, and again, this could be somebody who just thought that they could get something from Savannah. And it doesn't have to be money. It doesn't have to be romance. It doesn't have to be affection. It could be, like I said, it could be somebody who had auditioned for a broadcasting job at a local NBC station and didn't get it. It could be somebody who wanted a camera job. I think money is secondary. I don't think it's about money. I think that this was about getting attention, and this is retaliation against Savannah for not doing something. And again, this is all speculation, but if somebody says, do you think this is about money? I think money is secondary. I don't think this is about money. I think the ransom note was convenient, but it got attention, which is this person really wanted attention. And I think that maybe the fixation could be with celebrity, with maybe a little stardom, maybe feeling like, again, they're equals with Savannah. People are motivated by weird things. And you don't really look at Savannah as a family person. I mean, she's married, she's got young kids. You know, she's not going to Hollywood parties. She's not going to Oscar parties. She's not going to the Met Gala. Okay. So it's a different type of celebrity. So it just tells me that somebody, somebody you don't know what somebody could have wanted. I'm thinking about the other night, I was in the interview room and they were live, and I was posting as Crime Crunchies, and I'm like, Chris, because I've emailed Chris McDonough and Karen, just like, I just want to, it's not that I think I'm right. It's just, this just is the only thing that makes sense to me right now. Okay. Could change next week if evidence goes in a different way. It's just, this feels like it's logical. I'm a more logical person. And I really just wanted to run this across, them, because I really respect them. But I've emailed them a couple of times, and just like, they're a big channel, I'm a small channel. They don't give a crap about me. They're not going to pay attention to my email. And I think to myself, what if something that I wanted from Savannah for my livelihood, something that I really felt like I deserved, and I know I was frustrated in the live chat on the interview room, because I'm like, Chris, I just want you to listen. I'm not psycho. I just want to run this past you because I respect your professional opinion. Call me, jumping up and down. Listen to me. Listen, what if this person, didn't have breaks on their personality and their livelihood was at stake? So people can get really desperate and can really snap and go too far. He could even be ashamed of himself. Not saying he is, or they. I'm not saying they are. Obviously they knew somebody who's done this, it went too far. Could be related to the Epstein. Absolutely. It could be retaliation for that, trying to shut him up. That absolutely could be. I haven't gone in that path, but it's hard to say. Somebody could have warned her to shut up about it. I don't know if somebody wanted to hurt Savannah. My original thought was, why wouldn't they just take Annie? Why take the 84-year-old that has a pacemaker, hearing aids, needs medication to even live? If they wanted to hurt Savannah and punish her, why wouldn't they take Annie, someone who actually can walk? Other than it being more painful and traumatic to take Nancy, I think that has to be the only thing. So, anyway, I still feel like, I'm hopeful that the feds do have a line on somebody. I do think that you know, if the feds did not have somebody, they would have absolutely been releasing dripping some info out to the public asking for our help, and they're not. They're not talking to Sheriff Nanos. They're only talking to the family. They're in charge of this thing. So, you know, I feel like this is what makes more sense. But so I'm going to switch gears now, okay, guys? Because, and I've said this before, that I respect that, at least as far as the sheriff goes, the sheriff has cleared the family, okay? And I have supported that, because when I think about if it was the family, they would have already had the perp walk, okay? They've had forensics in the house with luminol taking pictures. If there was blood sloshed all over and it was even cleaned up with bleach, that luminol is going to find blood. I mean, I was watching a show, a forensic type real documentary the other day, and they showed pictures of this house. And when you look at it, there's nothing. The rugs look clean, the floor looks good, the bathroom, everything is clean. But after they do the luminol and then the before and after pictures, the tub was just covered, was white as Christmas snow when you look at it in regular pictures. But after they get the luminol, totally, you could see where somebody had been drugged. You could see somebody's bare foot had walked in blood, because you could see the entire outline of the foot. So the fact that forensics was in Annie's house for 3 hours doing the luminol and taking pictures, that tells me that if they had that much evidence, they would have done their perp walk right away. But then I think about things, okay? And somebody had even commented about the David and the Celeste Rivas Hernandez case, and how it took 7 months after they found her body to arrest him. And I'm like, I wonder why, you know. So I was just looking, and I just pulled this up. Why did it take? Because I don't want to talk about this story. It's just awful. She's like 14. It's disgusting. The whole thing is disgusting. But it took 7 months because they had trouble persuading witnesses to cooperate. And, you know, one of the things that we're not hearing from any of Nancy's friends. I think that they were asked to not share. But when I think about 3 hours in the house and taking pictures, you know, and they took that car apart for 48 days. If there was anything in that car, I mean, they would have known long ago. And I think that they would have, it's just too low-hanging fruit. So I just don't think it's the family. I really don't. Do I think that we need to leave it on the table? Absolutely. Could it be that they're taking forever to arrest somebody? Yeah, I do. You know, it could. They're taking their time. The only thing about the 3 hours in the luminol is, if they were doing luminol, if they're shining, so what happens is they spray the luminol, they turn the lights out, and then they use a black light. And the black light, if there's blood on the floor, the luminol mixes with the proteins in the blood, and it becomes fluorescent under black light. And then you can see that was blood there. Even if it's used with bleach, it doesn't matter. The proteins are still there. It's going to be there. The only thing that makes me wonder is if they were using luminol in the dark and there wasn't any blood, then what were they taking pictures of? And that's the only thing that gets me stuck on that. Because if they spray the luminol on a surface and there's no blood, and they put the black light over it and there's no blood, it's just going to be black. It's not, nothing's going to show up. So what are they taking pictures of in the dark? And so that's where I'm getting stuck. And let me see if I can find a video. I think I might want to take, this was at Annie's house. Video 6. Taking pictures at night at Annie's house. Let me just see if I can find a video of it. Video footage of flash photography and law enforcement activity inside Annie Guthrie's. This is 3 months ago. Let me see if I can. Videos. And I don't want to spend too much time on this. Here's Brian Enton. Can you guys, I don't think you have any sound. Let me have any sound. See if we can see any camera flashes. Let me know if you guys can hear this. All right, I'm going to go away from that because it's not adding anything to this conversation. So, you know, I don't think the family was involved, because I think they would have. At this point, day 110, they would have had enough real easy evidence. They would have been able to get financial records, phone records, GPS records. They were in the house. They had ICACs, which is the child abuse, whatever it is, computer people going into the house. They tore the car apart. And again, with the luminol, I would say that the only other thing that is weird to me as far as motive is when I looked up on the website for the school where the brother-in-law works, the average salary of all teachers employed in budget year 2026 was $53,000. And that's the average. Some people make more, some people make less. And, you know, that's not a lot of money in, you know, I have no idea what their situation is. It's just that surprised me, because that's not a lot of money for somebody living in an expensive home like that. And I don't want to hurt the family. I don't want any of this to be misconstrued, because the last thing I ever want to do is be irresponsible here. But I just can't understand what they were taking pictures of. Because the way luminol works, there'd be nothing to take pictures of. So I don't know. But I just wanted to, like I said, I have to leave it on the table. It's not my main theory, but like I said, I keep looking over at it, because it's like, oh yeah, you're still there. Okay, cool. Well, good to see you. I'm just going to go back to my theory that somebody was fixated on Savannah, because that's what makes more sense to me. And it seems more logical, and things are really adding up. And I can't imagine, as, you know, serious as Cam is, that he is not going to not be involved with knowing what's going on with the feds. They're going to know what's going on with the feds. I have to believe that the family knows more than they're going to share. They can't share. And, the fact that Cam said this is 100% linked to Savannah, I trust him in knowing that if that is what it is, that's what it is. And, it's like, I just spent the first 2 months just trying to figure out why would they take Nancy? It just doesn't make sense. Nothing made sense. And so this is the first thing. This was the first time I just went, oh my God, this makes sense. This adds up. So blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. Do I want them to release the ransom notes? Yes. I want to know exactly I don't think they found Nancy. I don't know. That's a great question, Joe, because you know what? We don't know. Would the family have been asked to keep it quiet? I don't think that they would have. Could they have been asked to keep it quiet so that the feds could nail this guy? Yeah. I mean, because at this point, the family just wants her remains. I don't know. Maybe they have found Nancy. I don't think anything is too far-fetched with this one. And I certainly don't think that anybody should think that anything's locked in, any theory's locked in. I think everything is as up on the table. So I want to ask everybody, if you're new here, please subscribe. I'm trying to get to 10,000 subs. It's free. I don't want your super chats. Don't want those stupid super stickers. Joe, you're my first member. I don't even want any more members. I don't want you guys spending any money. I see other YouTubers saying, I want money. Give me tips. You guys need to do. No, I do this because I choose to. I want you guys to go and buy groceries and buy food for your families and gas for your cars. I just want you to subscribe and watch. That's the only thing I want. I would love to get to 10,000 subs. I'm going to CrimeCon next week. The very first session on Friday is Nancy Grace talking about Nancy Guthrie, and I've got a VIP badge, and I'm going to get in line because I want to be in the front row. I'm hoping that there's a Q&A session because I'm going to stand up and I'm going to say, my name is Courtney C. I'm over at Crime Crunchies. Can I run my theory past you, Nancy? If I see Chris McDonough from the interview room, Chris, you might think I'm nuts. Do you have 5 minutes? I want to talk. I have some questions. Yes, this is nice. Enjoy the show. Are you going to be able? I don't know if they'll let us record it. I would love that. I doubt it. And thank you. And this is something I was just on a show. Oh, who was it? It was like Cool Dad or whatever. They were driving around Nancy's neighborhood today. They were live for like 4 hours, and he kept saying, yeah, well, if I can get more stickers, I'll get me another drone. No, that's your deal, dude. That just is horrible. People are trying to freaking buy groceries. I mean, buy a dozen eggs. No, I do this because you know why I'm here? I so care. I care so much about Nancy. I just think about my mom. And if I just can't even go there. So no, I don't want super sticker, I just want people to watch. That's it. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for watching. Please share if you're enjoying this and it's worth anything to anyone, please, share or thank you for everyone who subbed tonight. That means the world to me. And I hope everybody has a great night. I'll be going live again this weekend, coming up with more stuff, things to talk about. Please share all your thoughts and comments with me, because I'm thinking about everything that everybody talks about. And, you know, you guys are making me go down other paths. I need to, you know, we all need to continue going through the paths, and we need to stay there and keep it relevant for Nancy. She needs to stay in the media. The worst thing that could ever happen is that this goes away from the media. Not a lot of people are covering it anymore. And, you know, we need to keep it out there, and we need to figure this out. All right, you guys, thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and I will catch you guys on the flip side. Toodaloo.